Hola, Rhonda.
Hola, how are you, Polly?
I'm fine. How are you?
Really good this morning.
It's very good to see you, and I am super excited about what we're talking about. And I'm mostly excited because you really just got back from this exact trip, didn't you?
It was fabulous. We were there for about 10 days in April and had a wonderful time.
That's wonderful. I'm really excited to discuss this trip. We're going again next year because it was such a success this year. And we're leaving March 31st and we're traveling through April 10th or April 15th, depending on if they choose to do the Amazon extension, which we'll talk about at the end of our little presentation. But Rhonda, tell me, you're an ambassador for Women of the Midwest. Tell me a little bit about how that started and how you got wrapped up with this crazy bunch of ladies.
Well, I was in the travel industry for many, many years. And when I retired from that, I was approached by Ann Fulby Olson, our founder, and she asked if I would be willing to be an ambassador for the ladies' trips. And she explained how our groups are different than a lot of other groups because we keep our numbers down to a smaller head count, which makes it much more enjoyable. We can do a lot more of the hands-on activities, participating in things, not having the big, massive bus loads of 55 plus people. And it just really makes for a great experience. We get to know each other a lot better. We keep our numbers right around 20, and it's really enjoyable to have that size of a group.
Yeah, I love that too. And tell me what you do as an ambassador. What is your role?
My role as an ambassador is to just make sure the ladies all feel comfortable. I meet most of them. My departure city is Omaha, but we have a lot of guests that come from Kansas City and Denver and Des Moines and gosh, Texas, Arizona. They're from all over. We're not from just the Midwest anymore. So,
Not
but
anymore.
a lot of the planning that goes into it, we have a wonderful department with our air, so we'll quite often meet up before we depart the United States, and then arrive to our destination together. Occasionally, someone might go early or they might stay longer, but I'm with the majority of our group from the time we depart to when we arrive at our destination. On this particular trip, it was Quito. And I assist the ladies when we get to the airport and we go through with the customs, claiming our bags, getting to our transportation, which is quite often the motor coach that takes us to our first hotel or destination. So I assist with that. And when we land at our local spot, there's always a guide with us that happens to be from that country, which is wonderful because if there's a different language or anything, they are definitely bilingual and speak the native tongue. In Quito, of course, it was Spanish, and we had Jose, which was wonderful. But then we work together with the group on the different activities that we do. And our leader would be in the front, I would be in the back. We would, break down into smaller groups if need be. And it gives all of our travelers that extra comfort knowing that they have someone that's with them there all the time.
I love that. And I think it's kind of like a traveling concierge, don't you think? You're there to take care of their specific needs and any emergencies too you would participate in, but also just comfort stuff and making sure everybody feels like they have somebody to lean on if they need it during a trip. And some of these big international trips that are so unfamiliar, I had said that the first time I went to Ecuador, I was able to stay a month, and that was a wonderful experience for me. But I said when I came back that this is one of the most foreign places, one of the most unique places I had ever been, even after extensive travel to South America for me. So I think it's comforting to have that extra person along, aside from the tour director, to have our ambassadors along. I think that's what sets Women of the Midwest apart as well, even though, like you said, we're not so Midwest anymore. Our name is rooted in the Midwest, but we have women from all over the world now that are traveling with us. So let's dig into this tour a little deeper. I, you were our ambassador for 2024. I am going with the group in 2025. I'm actually the group department director alongside Ann Fulby Olson. And we felt like it was a good time for me to go down there. I'm going to do the Amazon extension as well. And just to get to know our partners in South America better, because we intend on doing a lot of other South American tours, including Chile, Argentina next year. So we're adding trips and destinations as we go. Now, Rhonda, talk about this picture on the front page. Is that, I think that's you and Jose and another gentleman?
That is Danny. He was our local guide for much of the tour. We had another gentleman that was with us the first day, and then he joined the group at the end as they came back from the Amazon. But it was wonderful because we had Jose leading the group. We had Danny also leading the kind of the second pod, and I would follow up the rear just so that we kept our group small. It makes it wonderful when you're trying to hear someone and they're giving you a lot of details. And if you've ever been with a large group and you're standing at the back where there's 50 plus people, you can't hear what the guide is telling you. By keeping our group small like this and having two guides with us, it just makes it so much more enjoyable because you can actually hear all the things that they're telling you about, and you can see and you can get in close. And that was wonderful having both Danny and Jose.
That's wonderful. Tell me a little bit about Jose. I've been doing business with him and setting up our new tours to South America, but he is a wonderful person, a great tour director, and very experienced and highly multilingual, right? He has perfect English, I think, nearly.
Yes, he does. He did a wonderful job. Actually, both of them did a wonderful job. And Jose was great with our group of ladies. He kind of kidded that he had all these ladies with him, but he really was wonderful and could explain and translate. If we were meeting with a small group of the folks that we actually went to like a cleansing ceremony, and they spoke Spanish and had their own dialect, a little bit different. So it was wonderful to have Jose to be able to translate that for us, and Danny also, so that we could understand exactly what they were doing and they could explain all the elements of the cleansing ceremony or the different activities they had us participate in.
So you never felt, even though you do not speak fluent Spanish, you never felt lost or like you did not have the opportunity to get the full experience because of Danny and Jose being such good translators. Is that right?
Oh, they were wonderful. Yes.
Great. Well, let's move on into the tour a little bit. It looks like you had some fun, Rhonda. This is some pictures from your tour, and we've got another few pages. Tell me where you are in some of these.
Well, the top left photo looks to be one of our Galapagos hikes.
Nice.
And
I think we got Cotopaxi National Park in there as well, it looks like, with the volcano behind you.
Yes, that was a beautiful afternoon where we were out. We got to go to the national park, and there was a hike around the lagoon. The name, it was Limio Pungo Lagoon.
Well
Forgive
done.
my Spanish, but it was a fun afternoon. It was a little bit cooler that day, and some of the ladies went for the full hike around the lagoon. Some of us took a shorter trek. We went out to a lookout point and had some great photo ops, and then came back. And then some of the more adventurous ones wanted to do the whole thing. And again, that's what was nice about being able to split up into different size groups for folks that had different activity levels.
Nice. Now, some people that don't know what Ecuador means, it means equator, correct? So
It
I
does.
see there that you're at latitude 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0.
We were at the Intinan Museum, which is right on the Ecuador. There's a little bit of controversy on that. The original stone or marker is a few degrees off, but they have another spot where you could actually stand and you could have one leg on the north and one leg on the south, and you were right on the equator.
That is super interesting. I love that. So we're looking at the map here. I think so. We fly into Quito, Ecuador, which is at about 9,000 feet. I think we'll talk about altitude and some of the challenges of a trip like this in a few minutes. But we fly into Ecuador, and then you take another flight when you're ready to go to the Galapagos down to Guayaquil, which is where I have been before as well, and then off to the Galapagos. You'll come back into Quito or into Guayaquil and then Quito, and then that's where the Amazon extension folks separate. You all go back to the US and they go onto the Napo River, which we'll discuss in more detail, but that's the overview of the itinerary. So here you are. It is a super busy itinerary, and I made a few notes that we can just go over and you can chat for a minute about each location. I love the city of Quito. I think it's absolutely beautiful. It's high in the mountains, and therefore you need to catch your breath before you come. We'll make some recommendations for that. But I think you did a walking tour, stayed in a hacienda, and did something at a school
We
or a
did.
gallery.
The first morning after we got a good night's rest, the first morning we were actually greeted at our hotel after breakfast by the folks at the school, and they came to us. We had a wonderful demonstration, and he was teaching us about the wood carvings and the different statues that he has made. One that was a version of the winged Virgin of Quito, which we actually went down to and got to climb up in the tower and observe, the city view from there. It was beautiful, one of the highest points in the city. But they taught us some of their different techniques of painting, and then also the gold leaf technique that you see on so many of the churches. And the lady, his wife, this is I guess a technique that's been passed down through their families, through the generations. And so she showed us actually how the gold leaf was applied, and we got to make our own little statues and apply some of the gold leaf before we left, and then went to the church and got to witness the churches that had been done, and all the beautiful ornate. It was spectacular.
Beautiful. And I find that kind of climate really come to walk around in. The climate in Quito was perfect for me. It's nice and it wasn't too hot, wasn't too cool. Probably just light jacket weather. Is that right?
It was probably 65, 70 degrees, maybe Fahrenheit. And so the climate was wonderful, a little cooler in the mornings. And so you just dress in layers,
Yep.
a light shirt with a little jacket over. And then as we progressed through the afternoon and things got a little warmer, you take the jacket off. But no, the climate was ideal.
Perfect. I love that. So the next day, and I know I'm pronouncing this probably incorrectly, but Cotopaxi volcano, you did the rose plantation, and you had lunch in Cotopaxi National Park.
That was a great day. We started out actually in the morning to the rose plantation, and I've worked part-time for a florist, so special interest in the roses. And it was so interesting to go to their farm and see the entire production, from the planting to how they graft their roses to how they care for them, how they harvest them. They count so many petals on there and know that it's
Oh,
the right time to cut them.
wow.
Then how they're bundled and how they're labeled, how they're then shipped off to the United States. Ecuador, I believe, is the second largest production for roses after the Netherlands.
Yeah.
So the floral industry is just amazing, and it was fun to see the behind the scenes. And we were there just before Mother's Day, so they were working their tails off
I
trying to
bet
get
they
all those
were.
roses ready to ship out.
Wow. And was it fragrant? Could you smell the roses?
Yes, um, different roses are more fragrant than others, and that's designed by purpose because it depends if they're being used just for a regular floral arrangement, or to go into a bouquet, or a bride's bouquet. Whereas if you have roses that are on the centerpiece of a dining table, you don't want roses extra fragrant because it competes with the smell of your food. So
Wow.
very interesting.
I never knew so much thought went into the scent of roses. That's absolutely fascinating. See, they use some sort of trellis to hold the blooms up in this picture, to hold the blooms up upright, probably so they don't get damaged. That's amazing. So the next day you did this, you were talking a little bit about the cleansing ceremony. You did this Ancestries Knowledge Center, the cleansing ceremony. And I thought maybe we should reverse this and put the brewery first and then go cleanse. Do I have that wrong?
Well, we were good girls at the brewery as well. It was just a small tasting, and that was a fun way to kind of wind down. The cleansing ceremony was very moving, and it was interesting to learn some of their traditions and how they take the elements of fire and water and air and earth and Mother Earth and all the things that go back through their years of tradition. It was very, very interesting. And again, Jose and Danny were wonderful explaining to us when the local people were describing each element of what this was, or the burning of the sage and different things. They were able to explain to us so that we didn't miss anything in the translation.
That is beautiful. I saw the video of Jose's cleansing and it was moving even from watching a video. I can only imagine being there. I bet it was absolutely wonderful.
It
Now the
was.
next day you have a little you finished your embroidery, Rhonda Wagner? I
I
already knew the answer to
loved
that question. That wasn't very nice of me, but you did get the opportunity to do the Zuleta embroidery lesson, correct?
the Zuleta ladies were so kind, and it was nice because there were so many of them, almost probably 2 to 1 of our ladies to theirs. So they were there to assist us with each of the different embroidery techniques. You're talking to a non-seamstress
I'm
girl
not
here,
either.
but bless their hearts, because they demonstrated each, like a French knot or a split stitch, and they would show us how to do it and help us, thread the needles for those of us that don't see those tiny little needles. But it was great. And I would do a couple stitches, and she would come by and she would tap me on the shoulder, and she would take the thread out of the needle and back out my mistake. And then she would demonstrate it again. And she was so patient with me. At the end, she gave me a big hug and she just smiled because she knew I was not a seamstress.
We did. We had a lot of very seamstressy people on that tour, though. So because I saw some completed projects that were really beautiful, that
They
some of the ladies came home and finished.
Several of the ladies were awesome, and yes, we got photos of the group and some of their different stages of completion, and several of them that we ran a little bit short on time, but they actually came home and completed it and sent me a picture and said they taught us well.
I love that. We'll have to put some of those up on Facebook. I'll make a note to do that. Now, the next day, you did one of the only places on Earth, there are definitely the only region on Earth that has condors are the Andes Mountains, I believe. And you got an opportunity to go to Condor Park and one of my favorite places, which is Otavalo Market in Quito. Tell me a little bit about that day.
The Condor Park was very interesting. They have a beautiful facility set up with the animals in cages, but nice cages. I mean, large, and it looked like they were in their elements. And
Right. I think it's a rehabilitation project, and they take injured and birds that have been domestic or attempted at domestication of these animals, which was a fail. And I think they rehabilitate them or just keep them until their life end. Is that right?
it is, it
Yeah.
is. So it's very animal friendly, nothing that's cruel. The gentleman that put on the demonstration for us had several from the small different hawks, eagles. The condors were not flying over the top of us. They were they were in cages, but
Right.
it was very interesting on how they trained them and how they would fly off and they would come back at a whistle command. And so that was interesting. And then when we finished there at the park, we had time to walk through and see the different birds. and there were some condors that were on their perches, and so we were able to get relatively close to them and take photos. And they just sat there very calmly. Nobody got crazy, but that was fun. And then when we left there, we went to the Ottawa market that you mentioned.
Yeah.
That is like farmers market to the 10th degree. There were everything from, oh, they had textiles and fabrics and completed, you could purchase clothing and different articles like that, the alpaca wool. They had food, farmers market. They had spices that were ground. They had
Oh,
local artisans that were painting, and just, so if you wanted to pick up any kind of souvenir, that was a great place to stop.
oh, good. So that's a good tip for them to take some smaller currency to that market with them that day. And I'm sure Jose can aid in getting whatever they need regarding money. But I love markets, Rhonda. I go to a market in every destination that I've ever been to. As a matter of fact, normally I will arrive on my own. I travel a lot by myself, and I'll arrive on my own and locate a farmer's market. It's immediately. It's my favorite way to get to understand culture and see how they live. It does feel very local and familial.
It is, and a tip there too with your cash, because they love to barter and they don't expect a full price to be paid. So if you show up with smaller bills, that gives you a little bit better negotiating power than
Yeah,
pulling out a 20 or a 50, because several of the items are lower priced. It's an incredible opportunity to get a good buy.
good, good. I would love to go there again sometime. I remember buying a few things and eating there as well. So I have never, like I said, I have been to Ecuador, and I went from Quito to the coast in a month and took a car down. But I never got out to the Galapagos. And here's where I'm just going to let you run, Rhonda, because I want to know all about the Galapagos, and especially I'd like to know about traveling from island to island, a little bit about the boat travel, and then um, so just tell me about your days there and what it was like, and what it was like on the boat too, if you don't mind.
No, we arrived into the Galapagos and transferred then from the airport on a boat to, or excuse me, on a bus to the little ferry pier. Then we got on our little ferry water taxi that took us out to our boat. And that was maybe a 10-15 minute ride. It wasn't long at all. And then once we arrived on the boat, we got settled in to our cabins, and the naturalists, a wonderful part that we had two naturalists on board with us. And so they would describe the day's activities and tell us, what we would be doing the following day and how you should dress and what to be expected. The first day, that afternoon, we actually went to St. Bartholomew,
Hmm.
and that was a hike around the islands. Very interesting. I had kind of pictured in my head it was going to be tropical and jungly like, but it was actually quite arid. There was a lot of red soil, reminded me a little bit of the Southwest. Of course, when you first get to the island, they have you arrive on a dinghy or on a smaller boat that's a flat bottom to protect the corals. So our yacht is moored or anchored further out. You get on a small boat that takes you up to the island. And again, the guides are right there to help you and assist you, because when you're coming in on a little dinghy and there's a few waves, you want to just make sure when you're getting off that boat onto land that you've got a good grasp. And we had two guides that were there, and they instructed us wonderfully on how to get off, and it helped all the ladies. Everybody did it without a problem. The rocks are a little bit slippery because the water of the waves is crashing up on there. So it's a good thing to have tennis shoes with a good sole on it. But we got off and we had walking sticks that they provided for us. So anybody that wanted to have walking sticks, we could. And we probably did about a 30-minute hike to the top of the island and had a good lookout point. and then 30 minutes back down. Got to view all kinds of the iguanas and, oh my goodness, all kinds of birds and lizards and the sea lions that were actually just laying on the rocks, and they weren't afraid of us. They just kind of watched us climb up and they looked at us, and that was a fun little thing. We had a guy that would jump on the back of our boat on our big yacht, and he would ride with us. So in the morning you'd get up to have coffee, and here's the sea lion sitting on the back of the boat.
Love that. I love wildlife and animals. I see a blue-footed booby there too. And I know that
Yes.
it's funny because I've been fishing before in South America, and the boobies are quite a nuisance for the fishermen. Now, for you and I, they're an unusual bird that we never see, but I've seen guys shooing them off, and I'm like, wait, I haven't ever seen a booby before. I want to see it. But they're interesting birds, and life down there, I think there's things that we've just never seen before. Did you get the opportunity to see any of those tortoises that we see in the documentaries and such?
Yes, actually, we went to a tortoise farm,
Oh,
sanctuary. So we got to see a lot of the great big large turtles, and there were even in the coffee shop at the end where you could go in and have a coffee and get a bite to eat. They had shells of tortoises that had passed away, but they were vacated shells, and several of the gals climbed into them and had their photos taken as a tortoise.
I saw those pictures. Those were cool. And the size of those animals is crazy. I cannot wait to see them. I can't wait to share that with our guests. And I think when I think about Ecuador and the Galapagos, and then we'll talk about the Amazon in a minute, but I think this is really once in a lifetime. This is a long flight. It's not something you just think, oh, I think I'll go do that again. This could be a once in a lifetime journey. And I'm excited for our ladies that they get to go down there and see this sort of thing. It's so unusual and so out of the ordinary, and nothing we ever see anywhere near where we are. That's what I love about this trip, I think. What were some of your favorite things about this trip besides just traveling with the ladies, our little sisterhood?
Well, I tell you, it was a wonderful experience because in my travels, I've done a lot of tours that include your museums and churches and that type of thing. But I felt that Ecuador and Galapagos was really a hands-on, and we got to participate, and it was just much more involved with the locals, from the rose plantation and learning all about that, from the cleansing ceremony and how they live their daily lives and what some of their beliefs are and their practices. And oh gosh, just the outdoors, the beauty of it, the hikes, the nature, the
Wonderful.
everything. It was just so I felt like it was a really hands-on, immersed with the local culture, and enjoyed that so much. We had a visit to a local orphanage, got to play with the children. It was a wonderful experience to actually partake of Ecuadorian life.
I love that. And the children at the orphanage, we had kind of a unique situation with the orphanage. We were looking for something philanthropic or charitable to do while we were in Ecuador because it's just a nice thing to do. And we ran across this orphanage because of a connection, strangely, between our founder, Anne, and her cousin's children that were Ecuadorian, and that they were adopted from this very orphanage. I just thought that was a real connection, a real God thing that happened that was very unusual. And we were able to, I think some people did some small donations, and maybe even a camera was purchased or something for the orphanage. We don't, of course, expect any extra from anybody, but I know that it was a wonderful experience for people to feel like they were giving back on a tour. And I know that that was a special connection for women of the Midwest with this particular orphanage. So I like that you did that. What was it? It was 3 or 4 hours of a day. Was that it?
Gosh, it wasn't even that long, maybe probably 2 hours we got there, and there was a presentation that just a short video that showed us about the orphanage and how it was founded actually by people from the United States. But then we broke into small groups, and some of the ladies went with the older children, some of them went with the babies, and we got to sit on the floor and play with them. And it was amazing because, again, the children speaking Spanish and us not quite so much Spanish, but that didn't matter. It was just, the look in their eyes and kicking a ball or playing with a book and reading to them. And it was a lot of fun.
Love that. I'm so glad that we did that. So let's talk a little bit about the Amazon extension. I know that, well, here's some more pictures. I'm sorry. Here's some more pictures from your experiences there before we go on to the Amazon. These look like some of the crafting things that you were able to do. Tell me, what are the shoes in the bottom there? You've got your shoes with you.
I have my shoes right here. I watched this gentleman not make this particular pair, but he taught us. They take the fibers from the agave plant and strip them down and then flatten them out. And then they braid them and then they coil those into the sole. And then the women crochet the tops and they sell these shoes. It was like $20 for a pair of handmade shoes. I said, I don't know if I want to wear them. They're so pretty, but
beautiful.
Beautiful. And the fact that this gentleman made them.
Wow, that is incredible. I love seeing people that are so talented, and that is that kind of thing. Is that the gentleman up behind with the rock wall behind him that was making the shoes?
Yes.
Another thing I found about Ecuadorians that I thought was very interesting is they live old. There are old people in Ecuador, and they work until they are very, very old. They are hard working individuals. This man does not look like a spring chicken that's still making shoes, but he looks handsome in his Ecuadorian hat and making the shoes there.
He was the grandfather of the village that we were at.
Wow. And then I see the ladies doing their, I noticed you did not make the embroidery picture, Rhonda. I'm just making a little fun of my friend Rhonda, but I think one of these ladies is the one that finished it at home. I think I remember her picture holding up her finished product. And then are those the roses that are ready for shipping? Are they readying the roses for shipping there in those containers?
They are prepping them, and based on the length of the stem and color, they're bundled and then shipped in batches of 25. And interestingly enough, there were roses everywhere from our hacienda to the hotels that we stayed, just the floral everywhere. Because when they process their roses, from the time they are cut, if they are not in a box to be transported within 4 days, the price drops substantially. And because of this, they do have plentiful supply, and everywhere you go, you will just see arrangements on tables and in the foyers and in your sleeping rooms of roses. It's beautiful.
That's great. I skipped completely over, and I didn't mean to, the San Clemente stay. On the third night, I think, in Quito, you leave all your luggage behind, just take a little overnight bag out to the hacienda at San Clemente. Overnight, and that's where you did the embroidery, I think. So people loved that experience. When our surveys came back, they loved it, the overnight visit to San Clemente. I think that was a particularly beautiful place. Is that right?
That was an incredible hacienda. We spent a night there, and we had time the next morning to kind of wander through the grounds. It was truly self-sustaining, and they had farms there that had every herb you could imagine and all of the vegetables and things that they grew, from their artichokes and tomatoes and broccoli and cauliflower. And I mean, I could go on and on. It was incredible. And then you went back towards the stables, and they had an area where they had their rabbits and guinea pigs and chickens, and truly, a self-sustaining property. And oh my goodness, the chefs, the meals that they cooked there were fabulous.
Gosh, now I'm hungry and looking forward to that night in San Clemente. So we'll fast forward back to where we were again and talk a little bit about the Amazon extension. So that last day, oh, there's your little, I keep jumping around. I'm sorry, Rhonda. There's your little sea lion friend. Hitch a
There he
ride.
is.
And there's the dinghy that you talked about. Getting onto that can be a little bit challenging, but the guys are super helpful getting you onto these small boats to go into the islands each day. And then
Yeah.
there's that lava rock that you talked about. That can be the little slippery part. So maybe we'll make some recommendations about really good shoes to wear. I know it's not flip flops or those flat little water shoes. We'll need something more substantial. And you're carrying in almost lots of these pictures, you have the Women of the Midwest flag that we sent down with you. And
Yes.
I love that you have that. And is that your boat up there in the upper picture? Is that the yacht, one of the yachts that you were on?
Yes, I believe that's the Coral Yacht 2, which is the ship that the ladies were on.
Beautiful. All right. So then there's more pictures of the Galapagos. There's those giant turtles. My gosh, or tortoises, I think they are. And there's the red dirt you were talking about, and those colorful crabs. I've seen those at the farmers market in Guayaquil. They're snappy little things. So for this portion of the tour, the package price is 80 to 95 per person, not inclusive of air. And if you want a room all to yourself, completely by yourself, it's 97.95. Then you'll be on your own completely. If you want to go on this trip and you do not have somebody to travel with, but you would like to be paired up, we have our pair and share program. And everybody that works with Women of the Midwest is a huge fan of this program because you typically come home with a new sister friend, and we pair you up based on likes and dislikes. So we let you talk, we introduce you and let you talk about, hey, do you get up and shower at 4 o'clock in the morning, or do you like to read until midnight with the light on? And you can discuss those difficult topics before you choose to pair and share. But that's available. Just tell them upon making your reservation. You can read the inclusions and what's not included. We're working with the airfare now. We were going to try to have it ready by May or June, but we've got some airlines that we're waiting for to come in with quotes. So it's going to be a little while longer, but the air's looking pretty good. This portion of the trip includes the 7 nights accommodations and then the 3 nights on the Galapagos cruise ships, 10 breakfasts, 8 lunch, 5 dinners. When the surveys came back, Rhonda, nobody mentioned that it was not a value for the money, although it's a very expensive trip, let's be frank. It's a lot of money, but every single person felt like they got value for their money, which is what we hope for.
The meals were phenomenal. And if you've ever been on like a cruise ship where you feel like they were feeding us almost more than my stretch pants could hold, because we had beautiful buffet breakfasts every morning, and quite often the lunches at oh, we didn't talk about the Pamba Mesa, which
Oh
was
my
a
gosh,
wonderful experience.
tell me
But
a little bit about that while we're still on the in Ecuador.
that was a communal meal where we went to a family's home, beautiful home. It was a little drizzly that day, so rather than being outside and sitting on the ground, which is traditional with a white cloth spread out, they had us in kind of an open air, but covered with a roof area. And they had a table. You thought you were at the Pilgrim's Feast. There was just food. Oh my goodness, probably 5 or 6 different kinds of meats and probably 10 different vegetables. And all of these different families got together and made this communal meal for us. And then they had a little dancing, and you showed us some of their native culture things that they do. But it was amazing. The food, I can't say enough. It was wonderful, and we never went hungry.
That is so cool. And that is, you touched on it a little bit a few minutes ago. That's what really sets this trip apart from just even other Women of the Midwest trips. This is so culturally immersed, and it's because it's South America. Now, I have a huge love for South America. I have lived and loved South America for my entire life, really. But I really do believe that's what sets this apart is sitting in someone's home and having a bunch of the local women cook for you. I'm glad that you backed up into that story, and thank you for adding that. So now you split off and went home with what we thought was going to be the main group, but we ended up surprisingly, almost everyone we had 16, 15 or 16 travelers, and 11 ended up going on the Amazon extension. And my recommendation, Rhonda, and they can take this with a grain of salt, but my recommendation is if you have flown this far and gone this long, you might as well extend for this additional 5 nights and see the Amazon. It is rare that you would get an opportunity just to fly back and do an Amazon cruise. So my recommendation is to stay for the extension if you are able. I am staying for the extension, so I will be aboard this beautiful ship with you to the Amazon. Now, in the Amazon, before your group split up, we popped in a spa day in this beautiful place. Tell me, and this was pre-airport for the group going home and pre-1 night keto stay for the group staying on for the Amazon extension. So tell me about that spa day. Was that a relaxing thing to do before getting on a long flight?
The ladies thought it was a great way to kind of relax. And for those of us coming back to the United States, especially, just very relaxing. They offered an option to do a hike for those that wanted to get out and stretch their legs and kind of burn off some energy. And then to the spa, variety of treatments. We were asked to register in advance, but I know several of the ladies actually decided to add to their spa treatments the day of, and they were very accommodating. And it was a nice way to have a relaxing afternoon before we had to pack up, head to the airport.
Right. Now that spa, you don't have to necessarily purchase facials and massages and such. It's a location in itself, right? With pools, or tell me a little bit about just the destination without the spa treatments and stuff.
Several of the ladies just opted to lounge by the pool and wander around. They had soaking tubs, like jacuzzi tubs, and just to sit and soak up some sun.
Nice.
But it wasn't required, and it surely wasn't a necessary thing to do the treatments. I had several that didn't, but after they talked to a friend that got a special herbal kind of wrap on their face, they're like, I want one of those.
Yeah, that sounds good. I'll probably be, if I can, if I have time and everybody's doing all right, I may be in the spa getting an herbal something or other. But so at this point we split. This year you went to the airport with the ladies. We'll send our guides to the airport and have somebody get them all the way, onto the plane. I'll head to the Amazon with the rest of them. And we have a beautiful experience. We'll spend 1 night in Quito and then take off for Amazon extension. We'll go fly to the Amazon airport at Coco and then get in a motorized canoe. You don't have to paddle yourself to the boat. It's just a 30-minute motorized canoe. And then we start our beautiful Amazon adventure with a nighttime forest walk. Now, I have to say, I'm a little bit of a scaredy cat when it comes to stuff like that, but I'm going to do it. I would encourage everybody else to do it because we might see things that you don't see during the day. And then we're going to go to the Panayaco River Delta and see a lot of wildlife, have a beautiful barbecue out at a campsite, and do some kayaking. And if you have the guts, I'm going to do it so you can do it. We'll go swimming in a river with piranhas. I don't know about that. You think you'd do it, Rhonda? Would you do it? You do it. Oh, come on.
We'll see. We'll see.
We'll have the guides tell us about that experience, but I think it sounds like fun. And then one thing I've seen on the Discovery Channel before is the parrot clay licks. Have you ever seen that? The parrots use, I think it's bentonite clay, which is sold in health food stores for the benefits of humans to clarify their bodies. And the parrots go to these mountainsides that have this bentonite clay and they eat it to help with digestion. It's a natural thing that they do. And so we're going to see the parrot clay licks. And I love parrots anyway. Maybe it has to do with my name, Polly, but I love parrots anyway. So we get to see lots of birds. go to a cultural center where we'll be able to shop for local crafts. These Amazonian crafts, I believe, will be different from the crafts that you're getting in Ecuador at the Otavalo market and other places. And then we'll head back. We do 3 nights on the Amazon. It's going to be absolutely beautiful. I have visited the Amazon before, but I haven't been on the boat. I'm sure you talked to the ladies when they came back home, Rhonda. What did some of them say about this Amazon extension? Was it worth it?
They loved it. They thought it was wonderful. I heard about kayak racing and some different things that they were doing, and actually the swimming with the piranhas. And they all came back and
They're
they
all
had a
back.
wonderful time.
Did they have all their fingers and toes?
They did.
They had all their fingers and toes. Okay, that's very good news. And I understand that the boats are very different animals, no pun intended. They're both beautiful, stunning boats. This Amazonian boat was a completely different style than the yacht, and really something from African Queen or something, a very unique, beautiful boat. Now, when we disembark, we'll go back to Quito overnight, and then we'll do a winery before we go to the airport. So that should take care of any awakeness that you have. Just we'll do a wine tasting and head to the airport, and have our long flight back to the U.S. How long was it getting back for you, Rhonda? Was it 18 hours or more? Or
Well, I know flight schedules can change, but we left Quito around 11 p.m. at night, and did one change of plane in Atlanta with about a 3 to 4 hour layover, and got back to Nebraska around 10 a.m. So,
oh,
it
nice.
really wasn't bad. If you're used to traveling to Europe, I don't believe it's as long a trip as a flight to Europe.
Right. Now, when we do the documents meeting, I'll be very specific because I've done so many of these long flights. I have a lot of tips for long flights, for hydration, for the altitude portion, for eating things that will keep you healthy and not eating things that will make you unhealthy. So when we do the document meeting, I'll make sure to be very specific about those things. I know that some of the ladies took the chlorophyll that I recommended for the altitude and had success with that. Just a few drops of liquid chlorophyll in your water will do amazing things for oxygenating the blood, which is why we have problems with altitude because we lose oxygen. So we'll talk about all of that in the documents meeting and be very helpful and specific for recommendations so that it will ensure success for somebody that maybe hasn't done a trip this long but has always wanted to go do one of these bucket list trips. So we'll have the airlines available probably by mid-August, the airline flight schedules and prices, and we'll do our very, very best to get a good combination of a great price with a great schedule. That's always Lisette as our air agent. She is absolutely amazing. She's got her little magic box, and she will pull it out and make sure that we get the best opportunities to get there as quickly and as safely and as inexpensively as possible. So the Amazon, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was going to say 2 other pluses that I thought were wonderful. The time zone, it's possible from Central Time to Quito, we're in the same time zone, so you're not dealing with a 7-hour, 8-hour time zone change. That was huge. The fact that they use US dollars, you're not having to do currency conversion. That was a wonderful plus. 2 things that just help make the trip that much easier that you don't have to worry about.
I am so glad you mentioned that time zone thing, Rhonda. That can really set you back a day on a big trip into east or west instead of directly south. I'm so glad you mentioned that. Here's some of that lady looks like she is thrilled with her Amazon tour. She got her hands in the air. She looks happy, happy, happy. And we've got little golden frog there and spiders and moths and little cute kids sitting in the middle of the Amazonian jungle. Absolutely beautiful. There's the ladies kayaking. You said they had a great time kayaking.
Oh, they had races. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that part as well. And then here's some that looks like, I don't know my birds very well in the Amazon, but that looks like a toucanet maybe, or something related to a toucan. And there's the whole group by a gigantic tree. Look at the size of that tree. Yeah. Absolutely huge. And then a lady fixing some wonderful food. I think they had really good food on the Amazon too. They talked about the food, and then another craft tour. We will have the opportunity the day of the Parrot Clay Licks to do that cultural center where there'll be some shopping. Then, of course, the flora and fauna and this carving that is stunning. Beautiful carving. So the price for the Amazon extension, if you're per person in a shared double, is $33.95 in addition to the original amount for the Ecuador Galapagos trip. And then per person for a single, if you want to just do the whole thing by your own, by yourself in a room by yourself, it's $44.95. And then again, we have the pair and share service available for solo travelers on that as well. This includes 2 nights accommodations in Quito, 3 nights accommodations aboard the Amazon cruise ship, 5 breakfasts, 2 lunch, 3 dinners, and a wine tasting. And again, I never heard a word of, even though this is a lot of money out of pocket, I never heard a word about it not being a great value for the money. It's a once in a lifetime deal. It's something people may save for years and years. But I think this is a good place to splurge in life to see all of these different things. This is a tour activity level 3 plus. And I think, would you explain a little bit about, we talked about getting on and off the rafts. Did anybody have any real difficulty, or you just need to make sure to be mobile? Kind of go through that so the people will know if they're fit for this tour.
Well, when we were in Ecuador, the one thing, if you've traveled to the Rocky Mountains or any place where you have the elevation, it may take just a little bit to get accustomed to that, which is a nice reason why we chose the hotel that we did when we're staying in San Jose de Puembo. Did I say that right? Because the elevation is a little bit lower there, and it just allows you to kind of acclimate yourself to the elevation. We take it with breaks, and we make sure we always have water and everything for the ladies to stay hydrated, because being hydrated is hugely important. And
Yes.
for the most part, I would say everybody really did pretty good with that. A couple ladies took longer to adjust, but everybody did fine.
And
as
we
far
didn't
as
have any major altitude sickness at all, did you? You didn't have
No,
anybody getting sick from altitude, which was a beautiful thing. That is such a great thing.
and as far as when we were on the smaller dinghies and going through, the Galapagos Islands, our guides were wonderful, instructing us on how we're going to assist you getting in and out and give you a firm planting. Don't be carrying your purse and your sticks and all these things. We're going to pass all of that out later. We're going to just take you out first, which is a great way to keep your things dry, like your cameras and all of that. But they were very helpful. But shoes, especially on the Galapagos, and I would imagine also for the Amazon, to have a good pair of shoes that has some traction, because when the rocks are slippery, when they're wet. So
Yeah, I think those are good tips. And I think that if you're considering this tour and you have questions about safety or tour activity level, Rhonda and I are both more than happy to give you our input about if you are questioning whether you're fit enough for this tour. Rhonda will be a great resource for us to ask that. So don't be afraid to ask if you have questions about whether you are fit enough to go on this tour or not. Travel insurance, Rhonda. You and I have both been in the travel industry for 30 years plus. I don't know what to say. Please purchase travel insurance, is what I really have to say. It is not worth taking the chance that something will happen so far from home and that you will not have the coverage that travel insurance provides you with. So do your own research. You do not have to purchase insurance through executive travel. There's lots of insurance companies, but we do have a relationship with TravelX Insurance. We have a full video on why to purchase travel insurance. If you would like us to send that to you via email, let us know, and you can make your own decisions. But as a tour director, an over-the-road international tour director for years and years, that's what I did for a living. Please do not miss the opportunity to cover anything that might happen before or during the trip. And Beth or Angela at our office can tell you all about travel insurance and the cost associated with that. So here's our hotels. Does that look a little familiar to you?
Oh,
The traditional 4-star haciendas.
they
Beautiful.
were fabulous. Just,
Oh my goodness, look at that.
and when you hopped into bed at night at the hacienda, this is the first time I ever experienced, they had a hot water bottle that they slid under the sheets so that when you curled in under these great big fluffy comforters, you had some warm and comfort to cuddle up to. It was
Oh,
amazing.
that will be a substitute for my puppy who sleeps with me every night. And I know you have Cody, that I have Brewster and you have Cody, and that'll be our hot water bottle when we get home.
But
That
the
is
woodwork, the
wonderful.
paintings, just it was absolutely breathtaking to go into these places that were built, in the 1600s, and oh,
Man,
incredible.
beautiful. And then we've got our coaches. They look as good as any American motor coach I've ever seen. Super comfortable. Got their headrest covers and everything. Everybody looks happy in their seats. And then there's our Galapagos yacht. Wow, look at the wood. That is stunning. That ship is stunning.
I believe it's teak wood.
Beautiful. Uh-huh. Teak. And that's where you ate breakfast each morning in the middle picture there?
Yes, and then one
Or took
night,
all your meals, really, I guess.
all except for one evening, they did a barbecue for us up on the very top deck. It was nighttime, and we are starting to get night because the sun sets about 6 p.m. So we were up there with, the
Oh,
sun going down and having a beautiful meal. It was nice.
that is wonderful. And then there's our Amazon rainforest river cruise ship. That it's all open. I love how the windows are so open. I think they know that everybody wants to see out as much as they can in the Amazon. And I'll probably be outside the whole time unless somebody needs something. Everybody can come outside with me. I'm an outdoor girl. And there's your crew. There is your crew. So we're estimating probably 1,200 per person on the air. That's just an estimate right now, but we want to give people an idea of what additional costs they're going to get. And that is about that. There's Jose, I see back in the picture,
Yes.
looking for you. And everybody looks like they're having a great time. So we're going to have a good time. The deposit will be, we're getting close to this trip, which is in tour world, we're getting close to this trip. So the deposit is due upon booking. Your balance won't be due until right at Thanksgiving time, the end of November. You have to do your balance. If there's no risk at all if the trip is not guaranteed. But I can't fathom. We already have our first booking, and we're so far out. We're just really starting. Once we usually put together this recording, Rhonda, is when it really starts booking up. So if you're considering this, I would encourage you to get your questions answered by the office, or one of us are always available, and then go ahead and get your booking done, because this trip will fill up, and I happen to know that from experience. And then we'll do a travel document meeting 3 weeks prior to departure. And I have to say, Rhonda, you have a wealth of knowledge. We are so fortunate to have you as an ambassador. We're so fortunate to have Jose and his partners in Ecuador as our partners in the South. What a wonderful group of people. We happened upon Jose a few years ago, and he has been a true gift in this arena. Uh, please look for our Chile, Argentina trip that will be coming up closer to the end of 2025 as well, if you're interested in that. But we ask that you go to www.womenofthemidwest.com and tap on the Journeys tab. You're going to be able to see this recording and the brochure and all the full information about costing. Rhonda has something there. Ecuador. What is that, Rhonda? Did you buy that there?
It's a backpack that I got while I was there.
It's
And then
beautiful. What else did you get?
a little memory. I don't know if you can see.
I hold it still. Oh, that is
My little
so
lady.
cute. She's so cute. The handicrafts there are amazing. They're such talented people. But so go ahead and go to our website, click on Journeys, head down to Ecuador. You can book right there online if we've given you enough information that you need. or you can call 888-549-1186 or email groupdepartment@executivetravel.com. We're a very responsive, very small group of people, and we'll have all the answers to your questions. So any parting words, Rhonda, about this wonderful journey and who should go on it for 2025?
I tell you, the people of Ecuador are so warm and welcoming. I would go back in a heartbeat, just to spend more time with them. I dreamt of going to Galapagos since I was in my 20s, and that was a couple years ago. But gosh, don't wait. It's a trip of a lifetime.
It is. Thank you for closing with that, Rhonda, and thank you for your time today. Again, you're such a valued member of the Women of the Midwest team, and we appreciate you.
Well,
So,
thank you, Polly, as are you.
hasta luego.
Adios, mi amigas.
Adios.